What is up, guys? And welcome back to Tavern Tales, a Hearthstone Battlegrounds podcast. So before you recruit some new minions for the battle, let me welcome you to episode number 31. I am your host, Totally Drunk, and on tap tonight we'll let you know about some of the most recent Battlegrounds events that have been going on. And of course, we got to deep dive into the latest balance changes that hit live servers today. Quite a bit to go over there as well. So before we get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly take a moment to thank anyone who is joining us tonight for an earlier show on Twitch. Couldn't really advertise it because Twitter is kind of not working,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? We're here anyways. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host editor Ed. It's been about 2 weeks since we've last recorded. I have played a metric crap ton of Battlegrounds. Really since the patch came out. Uh, Varying success, like I'll be honest. But despite not having the best average placement, it has been kind of like a steady climb, but still trying to inch my way back towards where I was before the rating reset.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we can actually quantify it as like back to where you were
hmm
because okay, let's be real here. What are you at right now?
6078.
So you're at 2078. If you were to compare it, really, because you started at 4,000 last time.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know. I'm not going with hand in hand with all of this. Get back to what you should be like we're at before, because the thing is, it's just a different system now, and we just have to get used to that. Like it's different now than it was, when we ranked up the first time, and that's how it's supposed to be. So yeah, I like it. I think this new system is great. I'm not climbing that crazy fast, but I'm also playing a lot less games than you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm at like 38,
Right.
something like that. Yeah, 38. So
Yeah, when I say like I played, a few games since the patch, I looked it up, right before we started recording. I'm at 104 games since that last like major balance patch on the 29th. Uh, like it's not quite half of the games tracked on my itches replay, but I'd say it's probably a good 40%.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of that was just because like I was on staycation this past week, so I was playing a ton of games, and like just during the outset, since it was an off week for the podcast anyways, that also kind of attributed to me just spamming the hell out of BGs this past week. So
Mm-hmm.
getting a lot of good times in on that front. But I think the thing that has been most interesting with this newer system is just seeing at what point the external and the internal like MMR kind of like changed to the point where I wasn't gaining, plus 300 for a lobby win. And I noticed like for me personally, it was around like 1300 rating below where I was at going into the rating reset. And I haven't really talked to a ton of people to see at what point they notice like their numbers starting to adjust. So I don't know if that's kind of like baseline for everyone, or if it's just varying based on the player. But it has meant that these past couple of days that it just seems like if I do get a lobby win, my max SR gain at this point is 100 instead of 300. So there's been a lot of situations where like I get fourth place and I just end up getting like +5 towards my rating at this point. So it's definitely slowed down the overall gains and losses uh compared to like what it was before like those numbers met essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's yeah, it's a whole new system. I just have one complaint.
And what's that?
I wish in game they'd break it down into seasons, like your stats,
Okay.
instead of compiling them all together, like games played, games won, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Break it down into season, because since we're going to be having seasons, essentially, makes sense.
Hmm.
So that's the only thing I really want them to do now.
Yeah, that would definitely make things easier. Then you could just do, like, a drop down menu for filtering. Whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to do. But anyways, there's actually been quite a bit going on in regards to Battlegrounds events on the esports front. I know this past weekend we had the Battle Blitz. And initially we were kind of like going in today, being like, "Oh yeah, we'll totally be talking about this tonight." And then the patch notes happened. And now we're just like, well, there's another Battlegrounds event happening this weekend. So, maybe we
Mm-hmm.
could just move that to Tuesday, because spoilers, we're recording on Tuesday next week, and also moving forward, now that our Fantasy Overwatch League podcast is currently off season, because it is
Yes.
off season. So we have a Battle Blitz that happened this past weekend. And then also, we have the EMEA Battlegrounds Cup that is happening this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, knowing that we have a patch today, I'm very excited to see what's going to be happening with this. And, we'll be breaking down both of these events on our Tuesday show.
Yes.
So the Battlegrounds Cup here is Friday through Sunday. It starts at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Friday. This will be streamed on the Hearthstone Twitch and YouTube, depending on whatever platform you want to use on that front. And the players are going to be competing for their share of a 10,000 USD prize pool. So looking at the lineup here, we have the event being casted by Educated Collins, Gia, and Saddle. And then we have a lot of EU players here because it is a European event, and I know they have streamers mix in with some of like the top EU ladder players. Uh Probably the most notable names on here being Show and RDU. But you also
Mm-hmm.
have players like Silver Name, Synod, Oliek, uh, Buttalicious, Sir Salty, and the Fisho or Fishu. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Hearthstone names I just don't know. I no, no. Get pronounceable gamer names, you jerkasses.
I'm,
Like,
they're just trying to cast a curse people. That's what it is.
right? Like, yeah, I get it. If you're if it's in a different language, yeah, then we're not going to be able to understand it. Like if it's Korean players, no, we can't I can't read Korean, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But this is the English language, and I don't even know if these are words.
Well, I mean, one of them is just two words, or a couple of them are two words mixed together.
Yeah, like silver name, easy.
Mm-hmm.
Olich. I don't know.
Yes.
I blame World of Warcraft for this.
Okay, that works too.
Because it like it yeah they require like you use a random name generator,
Mm-hmm.
and they come back with all these weird names, and then that's your gamer name. That's how I have Edinar. No, my name's not Ed. Like, but it was my original World of Warcraft name.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and a lot of those times too, they just stick like a ton of vowels next to one another just to further escalate the issue here.
lots of O's and U's.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And like outside of that too, like I know one of my followers has also been doing a Battlegrounds tournament as well. That was Hala, who is doing the League of Champions, which is kind of ongoing as well. I don't have full details on that. I know it has started already, but he has been streaming that over on his channel. Also doing like crowdfunding for the prize pool through like Matcherino. So I'll post details on that. I believe that's a 32 player tournament that is happening as well. So we got things from like Hearthstone esports, and then we also have like community run events happening as well. So it's good to see it happening basically from the top down at this point in time. But really, the big news this week is the new balance updates, and there
Yeah.
are a slew of new changes. Now, we are recording earlier than normal. It is a patch day. uh, both of us had work. So, we have not gotten any playtime in on the new patch as of yet.
No.
So, Tuesday, we'll definitely have kind of like a better understanding or at least firsthand experience. So, this is more gut reaction in regards to the direction that they are taking. The overall balance of the game. We got some very interesting things, and I feel like there is one of them in particular that I don't think you and I are going to agree on, and I'm not going to tell you which one it is.
Okay. All right. All right.
Because I'm not convinced as of yet about where this is going to leave a certain hero. But anyways, let's jump into the patch notes for 18.4.2, which is live as of this afternoon. So up first, retiring from the hero pool is Bartendotron. And like, I'm not gonna say like this is a major loss. We already kind of got Bartendotron 2.0 with the introduction of Omu, who has greatly surpassed Bartendotron when we're talking about average placements and just how he's been doing kind of like across the board at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But are you at all surprised by the fact that we haven't seen more of these heroes kind of being cycled out, knowing, we've been getting like 3 to 5 heroes every time they patch new heroes into the game at this point, without like really dragging others out here?
I think they, the reason that they took Bartendotron out is one, you have a better, like, and we'll talk about Korra in a second, but we have like, it's budget Omu.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a shitty Omu, and we have like, I how do I put this? Um, whenever there's hero powers that reduce like the cost or mess with the hero power, or mess with the cost of um the hero power, they tend to not be good.
Mm-hmm.
The exception with Omu is you are using the hero power and you're getting stuff on top of that.
Right. Because you're getting 2
So
gold.
it's not reducing the cost of that. It is allowing you to make more moves when you level. So to me, it's a little different because I mean, if you look at it, we have what is the Shenvala? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Shenvala is another one who is reducing the cost to upgrade Bob's Tavern, and that's bottom 5. Bartendotron was damn near the bottom. Like, I don't think messing with the amount it costs to upgrade a level is a good game mechanic, because we've seen that you can stay on tier 3 and do just fine, or for an extra turn, or stay on tier 4 for an extra turn just fine. So it's one of those things where you almost you know it's not as appealing.
Right.
So that's the sole reason why when Omu first came out, I thought Omu was not gonna be very good, because I just I don't like the let's mess with the cost of the hero power as your or mess with the upgrade as the hero power. I just I don't like it. I don't like that mechanic in the game, and I don't think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, and at this point too, like it is worth noting, with elementals and the arrival of Celemental, being like another like technical token minion, did kind of unlock a lot of potential for Omu, on top
Mhm.
of just Alley Cat and the Tide Caller. Um,
100%.
Now, you kind of hinted at this, but Korra has been given like developer insights on the balance changes, and I kind of had that as its own thing. But I figured, while we go through this, we can kind of bounce back and forth
Hmm.
to see like what the devs are saying. So when it comes to Bartendotron, Korra mentions that it does feel like Budget Omu right now, so we removed him. We'll have to update and bring him back at some point. He is a great character. So it feels like right now they're just looking for a way primarily to differentiate, these two. Um, so I, I don't know what direction they're to take at this point. But obviously it seems like right now they just don't like having two heroes that are essentially like the same sort of character design within their hero power. All right, now let's talk about the big one, Ed.
Yeah, the one of the most, in all honesty, one of the most needed nerfs in the history of Battlegrounds, and honestly, dissuade a lot of people from actually playing Battlegrounds
Mm-hmm. That
because
is
it
true.
was so bad.
All right, so the greatest hero, I want the best performing hero in Battlegrounds history, Ragnaros, did get a hero power change. So, with his introduction, his hero power was when you kill 20 enemy minions, you get Sulfurous, which would buff your left and rightmost minions +4, +4 for absolutely nothing. Alright, so what did they change? They changed the amount of enemy minions you need to kill in order to gain Saphir, so it went from 20 minions now up to 25. And then they decrease the buff that you get for your left and rightmost minions to +3, +3. Alright, so I'm going to go through the dev insight first, and then I'm going to throw it to you. Korra was basically saying, like, we discussed a couple of ways to turn Rag down. Originally in testing, his hero power was kill 30 enemies, and we overshot when we buffed him internally. Decided 25 and +3 was still good timing for the hero power to activate, and a very useful buff. And then she ended that by saying, still probably pretty good. Alright, so
Yeah,
let's look at the stats. We have seen a little bit of a drop. And by a little bit, I mean not really that effing noticeable. Ragnaros, I think the last time we recorded was at 2.97. And right now he is 3.04. So let's throw Jandis's number in there, because that's the other quote broken hero with Pogo Hoppers. Jandis right now is at 3.7. that is that is a huge difference between tier 1, who only has, one hero, and tier 2. It's
I
ridiculous.
uh, I think we have different numbers.
I'm on
I'm
current patch.
Yeah, same
I'm on
here.
20
I'm
I'm
showing.
on the top 20.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you're on the top 20 and not all.
Okay, you're looking at
Okay.
all. Well, either
I'm looking
way,
at all. Either way, because I'm like,
Rag's
oh
still
yeah,
around
rank is still
3.
at 2.99. Oh, big difference. Um, yeah, it's I still think Rag will be powerful. I don't think he will be anything what he obviously this is a pretty massive nerf. To Rag. I do think it's a pretty massive nerf to Reg. Now, do I still think he'll be he'll be tier 2,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So like but a massive nerf is he drops from 2.99 to maybe average placement being 4 and being the third best hero. But that's still a massive nerf. Because it's not and here's the other thing is there's more to this nerf to come. I think in these patch notes, and I'll just say it now. They removed the Whirlwind Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is making that makes a lot of difference. Like having the Mega Wind Fury on any minion that has Wind Fury, it was creating a huge problem because you'd throw, oh God, what is the name of that stupid freaking elemental?
The
The
crackling
crackling cycle.
cyclone.
Yeah,
You got it.
you get that in there, and you just keep like at a certain point that crackling cyclone, if you have it on the left hand side enough, will just wipe out your entire team. It just will. Um, so I and an only way to get Mega Wind Fury now is to gold the crackling cyclone. So like that is a nerf to Reg as well, but you're gonna start seeing like I think Reg is gonna be one of those. It's. I think Slissa put it best. Is the cat Bigglesworth.
Hmm.
She's like Reg will probably become more of that. It's gonna be last or first. Like because you're gonna be taking those extra turns to get to 25 kills. But if you're not getting there quick enough, you're basically wasting a hero power.
It's one turn.
Maybe.
It's not.
But
It's not going
but
to be
one
turns in
turn
this
in
one.
Hearthstone is a lot. You're looking at probably what turn 8,
8 or 9,
8
depending
or
on
9.
the lobby.
And me and you have had games recently on turn 9 of getting hit for 20 some odd damage.
Hmm.
Um so it's like they need to get there really quick. I think if you can get it on turn 8 and then get the right heroes on the right hand left side of your board, you're gonna win. But it's about getting to that.
Yeah, I think the big thing here, I don't think like the delay is too much of a worry unless we still do see like really big power swings. But with the amount of like moving pieces we have, it's like it's still too early to tell whether or not we're still going to see like those 25 to 30 hits on like turn 9 or turn 10 when suddenly we're in top 4 for whatever reason. Um at the end of the day, like the key thing here is like this is still not costing you a damn thing. You look at Jiraxis, who's buffing his demons, it costs 1 and it gets +1/+1. You're still gaining more stats for absolutely nothing with this +3/+3 for your left and right minion than you would for a hero power that actually costs gold. And that's always going to come back to the problem of the design of this hero power. I don't think this is going to be suddenly Ragnaros's, you know, bottom tier 2. I think he's still going to be towards the top. I'd probably argue he'd probably still be top 5 by
I
the
I
by the
actually I
end of this.
agree with that. Yeah.
And
Like I agree with that.
it's just I the with Crackling Cyclone still in the game, like you're still going to have that really early snipe potential with Ragnaros as well. So yes, this is a step in the right direction. Personally, I would have preferred them to cut the buff aspect in half and maybe leave, the kill enemies where it was at right now. But either way, the big indicator here is going to be if this is going to dissuade people from having to kind of like switch things up and go towards Divine Shield Poison, which has seen changes in this patch as well, because what we have been seeing is there have been massive boards, and the easiest way to get out of that was with the Deadly Spores and the Selfless Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Or, just trying to grab whatever Murloc and, find Toxin and help combat it that way. So it's going to be an interesting week ahead to see how drastic the landscape has changed, but like I don't think this is like a massive blow. Like if we're just talking
I mean,
overall power of the character, but the problem is like Rag was so far ahead of the pack
Hmm.
that it's just it obscures the Swain potential here.
Yeah. It's just that like yeah, it's I am sticking with it's a massive nerf, but a massive nerf like I think it goes to the extent of how, you know, insane he was
Mm-hmm.
that a massive nerf puts him in the top
Yeah, it
5
still
still.
puts him at pretty damn good.
But like it's you know, you're it's he was at that point. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was getting first place over 30% of the time. What? Like like you just it's insane. Um so yeah, I think it's a massive nerf, but it's going to be a nerf that just will take him down to third or fourth place maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still going to be powerful, and then I think if they if he still is super powerful, like let's say we're both wrong and he still stays at where he's at, then I think I the problem with Rag though is if you nerf him a little bit too much, you run the risk of him just going being completely useless.
Right, and that's why I feel like just changing the buff aspect outweighs
Hmm.
the time it takes to actually activate Sulfuras at that point. But yeah, maybe something we should do, Ed, is do like tier predictions ahead of our Tuesday show, at least for like the top like five, and we'll see like
How
who
close we
how
are.
close we are, or like who can knock out the most correct. Because it's going to be pretty interesting because we got some other changes to some of the top heroes within Battlegrounds as well.
Hmm.
So with Maya Shadowsun, we have a change to Imprison. So currently Imprison was to make a minion in Bob's Tavern dormant, and then after 2 turns, you get it with +1 attack and +1 health. So the change to this is you no longer get that +1 health, you maintain the +1 attack. And I have to say, like, I I honestly like I did not feel like I would enjoy this hero as much as I do, like for that type of like gameplay mechanic. Initially when it came out, I was just like, oh, it just kind of seems lazy, and I want as soon as I see something, I want to buy it. I don't want to like hold off like 2 turns
Hmm.
in order for me to play it. But it definitely offers some interesting decision making along the way, especially if you're trying to essentially pick up doubles at that case. Now, the dev insight here is that Maiev, she's strong, but not too far off from where we'd like her to be. We felt taking +1 health off of the buff would be fine for now, and that her playstyle is fun. So kind of similar to what we would see in the past from like Maleficent Manastorm in regards to like the mech buff whenever you would buy a mech in Bob's Tavern. So like this one could potentially be one that they might go back and change at a later date, but this one's kind of a little bit harder to get a read on because I I don't know if like losing 1 health is necessarily going to be like the biggest blow, and it does seem like the devs are pretty happy with where my Ev is at currently.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where I don't think this will change my F. I just don't. I don't like you're not taking these you know these cards like you're not making them dormant because you want like more stats on the board. A lot of times it's you're getting just a free card, a card free like a card for 1 gold.
Hmm.
And stuff like that. Late game, it doesn't like late game. You don't give two craps. Like mid to late games, you don't give two craps about that 1 extra health. You want what like the battle cry or death rattle or buff it gives, not oh my god, I need that 1 extra health. So I don't think this will affect my Ev really at all. I get what they're trying to do, but I just don't. I'm not for it.
Hmm. Right. So next up we have Shinvala, who has changes to Avalanche. So before it was after you play 3 elementals, you reduce the cost of upgrading Bob's Tavern by 2. Now it reduces the cost of upgrading Bob's Tavern by 3.
Ooh.
So I'm very conflicted with this one because you look at where Shinvala is at right now. Not very good. Definitely the
No.
weakest out of the new batch of heroes. With an average placement below 5. I I don't know. Like I could see like maybe 4.9. I don't. I can't
Yeah.
imagine how drastic this is actually going to change the tier levels and just the
Yeah.
turns that you're actually leveling up on.
I can't see this. Like, yeah, it's a failed attempt at like, trying to buff. It's just a weak hero. And you know what? You made plenty of weak heroes when it came out with elements. So you got a dud. I don't see the point in it. Now, I will also say this, it might get better. I'm not saying a lot better, but it might get better when elementals aren't forced in every game and everyone's trying to play elementals.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be more elementals to actually play. Maybe that could be its saving grace to get it higher up in tier 4, but that's, I think, its peak.
Yeah, and it is a way of encouraging players to play elementals.
Yes.
Once we do have that rotation in place at that point. Moving on to Patchwork, we got a buff to your starting health, essentially. So, with Patchwork, you initially would start at 50 health. Now you start at 55 health. So this is another hero who has not really been performing that well. Um, it's a minor gain, but I still don't think we're anywhere near the level of where Patchwork was at upon his initial release. But they think this is gonna be a reasonable buff. But like, even if like you're playing like demons, you can technically only play a couple extra, at the start of the game. But maybe that will be enough to kind of like stabilize in order for you to make that transition to the mid game to get your soul jugglers. But when we have these power swings in Battlegrounds to the extent that we have seen here as of late, it's kind of hard to quantify how much of a difference 5 health is actually going to be. Now, if you get dropped to 1 health instead of just being knocked out, obviously in that situation, that's a pretty massive difference.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is another one I'm just like, well, Patchwork's still probably gonna be lost in the shuffle here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily think that it's a horrible move and that Patchwork is a horrible hero. I think it's one of the facts is it's freaking boring. Like your hero power essentially does nothing for you in the game. Like you start with extra health and then nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a boring hero. It's why like it's like the 5th least picked hero in the game. Like not 5th worst, 5th least picked hero. Like it's, I mean, well, some idiots. Galakron is picked 18% of the time. It's basically it's above Nefarian, Great Akamukamura, Mukla, and Queen Wagtoggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so people just aren't picking it because it's a boring ass hero. So I don't know. I don't think this is definitely one where I'm like, it might make him better, but nobody's gonna pick him because he's boring.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, which is interesting because I feel like the next hero that they change, I actually really like playing, but a lot of people don't really like Syndragosa and that sort of play style. So they change Syndragosa's hero power. They did buff it, so it was at the end of your turn, frozen minions get +1/+1. Now they have adjusted it to +2/+1, so you gain one extra attack. Now, Cinder is another one of those heroes that's kind of been floating around like at 5 average placement. Not really picked a whole lot. Looks like we're at like 8% here in the current patch. Um, Far more like 5th or 8th finishes than top 4. And, like, I have to say, early, like, this is a hero that's really good early game. But you see a pretty drastic fall off once you get to the mid game here. So I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I'm definitely gonna try Syndragosa the first time I see Syndra pop up, just because I really do like this hero. And I think for me, it's just gonna encourage players to like double freeze more than they were prior, knowing that you are gonna gain like that one extra attack.
Yeah, I will, but I still don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. When you look at it, when you talk about buffing Bob's board, not your board, but
Mm-hmm.
Bob's board, you generally get the cards from Bob's boards then at a reduced cost.
Right.
So, for instance, like with Yogg, yeah, you get a random 1+1/+1, but it only costs 2 gold instead of 3. So you get a discount there for buffing one of the cards in there. You know, what was the other one? Just had it in my head. Oh, Maev. You're buffing Maev, but it's only costing 1 gold, and you get it in 2 turns. So like you generally I mean, even Maleficent, Mana Storm, just automatically gives mechs +1/+1.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think by freezing, you're having a use me now, don't get the benefit till next turn, but then you still have to pay 3 gold. So let's say you have 2 gold. Like let's say you have 2 gold, then you freeze, and then you just wait for next turn, and then you have 2 wasted gold. It's one of those things where it's a fine hero, and I think this might move it up a little. It's definitely like you said, it's definitely very good early game, but late game it doesn't play well,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's really its downfall because like you can even tell, like looking at like its placement, it it climbs up from the beginning, peaks at like 4th, 5th place, and then you just lose because your hero power has become useless.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're buffing tier 1 and tier 2 minions, and the rest of them are like, hey, let me get my tier 5 minion that's going to destroy your +2/+1 tier 2 minion like in an instant.
Yeah, I
So
mean, every once in a while you will have that instance where you're freezing because you aren't able to afford a triple on that turn.
mhm.
But it's not like that's super often
Yeah,
by any stretch of
and
the
the thing is
imagination.
you're freezing it for a triple. You're not freezing it because like I want that to have +2/+1. Yeah, let's do that.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we got one more hero power change, and this one is for Keen Mukla. So Bananarama now has a chance to give Mukla a big banana that gives a minion +2/+2. So you got the normal banana, which is +1/+1, and now the big one, which is +2/+2. I'm wondering, since you gain 2, Like, is there a shot that you actually get 2 big bananas and just not 2 regular bananas?
There is a shot of that. Mathematically, there is a shot at it.
I
I
don't know how often that will actually happen.
yeah, like I am not a statistician, uh, but if both they actually came up with the odds, it's one because thank you, Cora, who did say Mukla Mukla would like big bananas because they're bigger than regular bananas.
Mhm.
Thanks for that. Only about 1 in 5 times though. So the first one, 1 in 5, and then the other one has to be 1 in 5. What are the chances both of them? Like somebody else figure out the goddamn math on that because I'm not going to.
You know what they should do, Ed, is for King Mucklow when he's like throwing bananas at other people, have it like randomly decrease one of your enemy's stats. So you're not actually getting the banana, you're getting the banana peel.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I don't know, it's just one of those.
All I'm gonna say about this is a trash tier hero, and this is not a change that's gonna make Mukla any better.
Yeah, really the only thing that would make Mukla better was to just not give your opponents bananas
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the turn when you use your hero power.
100%.
Or my idea,
Like,
where you decrease their stats. Either works.
yeah. Honestly, you know what could make this hero pretty good, and by pretty good I mean middle of the pack, is the hero power should cost 0, get
Mhm.
1 banana, and don't give anyone else one. So every turn you get +1/+1
Right.
on whatever minion you want. Which is different than most. Like there are some that will buff your board, but you generally can't pick which one it is
Mhm.
outside of having them now on the far left or the far right.
Yeah, and it not
Uh,
cost you anything.
yeah. So like I could see that being thing. Now, granted, that would move it up into probably tier 3, bottom tier 3, top of tier 4, but right now bottom 3 hero.
Mhm.
And this change is not going to adjust that.
Yeah, alright. So, outside of
Let's talk
that...
about the one we're going to. Is there another one?
No.
No. There's one more we need to talk about that we're going to disagree on.
Is there?
Yes.
For... minions?
Oh yeah, that's more minions than the hero. I guess it's a nerf to the hero. Directly to that hero.
Alright, well, I figure with this, well, we'll go over the ones that were removed, obviously, and then we'll like knock all the other ones out in a batch. So we have 2 minions that were removed from the pool. One of which you've already mentioned, that being the Whirlwind Tempest, which is the one that grants Mega Wind Fury to your minions that have Wind Fury. The other one is Pogo Hopper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we already talked about Jandis's average placement in comparative to Ragnaros, seen as they are the 2 perceived broken heroes.
Yes.
And you know what? It just seems like with this, they're like, well, we can either have Jandis or we can have Pogo Hoppers.
But we can't
We
have
can't
both.
have both of them. And yeah, the bunnies are no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because on one hand, you basically nerf Jandis, Dino Tamer Bran, Shutterwalk by not having Pogo Hoppers in the game. And Whirlwind Tempest is, well, depending on how you look at it, because, I mean, this could be a nerf to basically any hero, but I think more specifically, you're looking at Ragnaros, paired with the Crackling Cyclone. You're also looking at Alikir as the other one that is directly impacted by this, since you do get a guaranteed Wind Fury on your board via the hero power. And not to say, like,
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy Jandis Pogos. It wasn't something that I always tried to force whenever mechs were available. There were a number of times where I didn't see one, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy whatever minions. And for the most part, like, I would see Jandis players probably staying on tier 2 until about like turn 6. And at that point, like they would just move on and try to power level at that point. And with the direction that they were kind of taking with the Vine Shield poisons, I wouldn't say I was necessarily bugged too much going up against a Jandis player, even if mechs were in the lobby. So this one is kind of mixed feelings for me personally. Like, I loved playing it. I didn't think it was like super broken, knowing that there was a way to counter, and you wouldn't even need big minions in order for that to happen. I mean, you could easily scam your way to first place with the Vine Shield poisons against these Jandis players. So, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about this, but I know a lot of people were just sick of seeing the Pogu Hoppers just getting up to like 200, 200, or like above 400 should they have tripled at one point.
Mm-hmm. I think the pogo. That's I mean, and like Cora said, this is a slight nerf to Brand and Shutterwalk, but they were already bottom. Like they were already towards bottom, so no big there. This is purely about Jandis and Pogo, and I do think it was pretty. It was brutal. It was okay. The only way you can compete with this is if you start getting poisons, and there's nothing else that can be done. Like if you don't have a poison on board, doesn't matter. Like because you're gonna lose because they're gonna be able to get those one. If you don't have poison, one pogo hopper will take out your entire team. Like they were getting that big. So I agree that it was an issue. And it does sound like it came down to, do we mess with the hero or do we mess with the card?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they just, a lot of times it's smarter to get rid of the card than adjust the hero, because then for future heroes you don't have to worry about the card becoming an issue again. So unfortunately for Jandis though, I think this is where we probably will disagree. I think Jandis falls down to the bottom of tier 4.
Okay.
Like because like can you think of another comp? Like okay, for let's say for 0 gold, you can flip flop a minion with one in Bob's Tavern. You don't get the battle cry, you don't get the buff, and you don't get to pick which one it is. To me, that sounds like one of the worst hero powers in the game. Like you basically are like, okay, yeah, it costs 0 gold, but it only is good if it's one, more powerful, and B, has no battle cry or no buff, because then you don't even benefit from that. Like I just think that this is basically a shit show for like her. Like yeah, I just like to me it's almost like the Captain Hook Tussner.
Mm-hmm.
Like how badly they, Captain Hook Tuss plummeted after that change. And Jandis is only there because of Pogos. Nothing else. Like there's no other comp that is really working. You know, like Murlocs maybe, but what's the point? Like you buy something, sell it. It's basically you're using your hero power to get 1 gold.
So, in this case, looking at some of the other like kind of like go-tos, Menagerie and Elementals are also up there, not to the same extent as Pogo Hoppers were at one point, but a lot. Basically, what's going to happen here, Ed, with Jandis is yes, they are still going to cycle a minion out, and they're basically going to be cycling whatever the battle cry is that they played.
Hmm.
So they'll throw it back, they'll pick up the buff again, and then they'll play the battle cry. That way it still ties in with, Little Rag. It still works with Menagerie, with like the mugs and jugs. And, it can still work with Murlocs in that case too, if you're just looking to, throw extra health or extra attack
Yeah.
in that case. But yes, it's definitely going to be a noticeable decrease. Um, I think like out of all of them, like if we're talking like average placement, this one would have the biggest uh differential here compared to its current form. But I think elementals will at this point become the go-to for Jandis in this case. Moving forward. But I don't know. Like I don't know if it's gonna be like bottom. Um I would probably say tier 3 for Jandis moving forward. But it's still early. We don't have any stats in HS replay as of yet. And even by Tuesday, it's still gonna be way too early to have like a full read on where everyone is situated.
Yeah, that is true.
So either way, like Jandis players are probably drinking their own tears at this point with this change, and we'll have to see where the numbers adjust. Now, obviously, we were talking about Divine Shield poison builds, and there's a lot of movement in regards to minions moving up or down a tier. We also have some changes in regards to stats. So I figure the best way to do this is uh, we'll talk about the tier changes, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, with Selfless Hero, that has gone from a tier 1 minion now up to tier 2. They have also bumped Deadly Spore from tier 4. Now it is up to tier 5. Elsewhere, we have Little Reg going from tier 5 to tier 6, and Gentle Genie dropping from tier 6 to tier 5. Alright, so let's talk about elementals, Ed. So, with elementals, there was basically no reason to go to 6.
No.
Little Rag was so potent as a 5 drop. And, you could just keep cycling. It didn't even matter what elemental it was, you would still, be picking it up to play it, just like you would with a Nomi in order to, constantly scale over the course of the game. And it honestly felt like if they had one, even two little rags, it didn't even have to be a triple. The scaling just got out of control with elementals. And I know like some of the views on elementals are kind of skewered because initially a lot of people were forcing them, but I don't think they're as prominent as a lot of people perceive them to be. And part of that's just because, well, they're kind of in every game right now anyway. But
Hmm.
I don't think we're still at the point where we see, half the lobby essentially trying to force that tribe specifically.
Yeah, there was zero chance that if you were playing elementals that you're going to tier 6. Um, and like it had to either be Nomi or Little Reg or
Mm-hmm.
both that get moved to tier 6. It just had to happen. When your two key cards are both tier 5, and like, yeah, no, that that can't be a thing. People can get tier 5 cards way too easy early on. Like, it's the traditional, okay, it's, I forget what turn it is, but to go to tier 4 is 7 gold, and there's a triple on board to freeze for the next turn. So the next turn you go, okay, level, get a triple, and then you would get one of these two and you'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. It's kind of like the Murloc thing with Bran.
Mm-hmm.
So it needed to change. I like that they moved Gentle Genie down from 6 to 5. Because I think That's an interesting mechanic that won't be overly
Yeah,
powerful.
the big question with that is whether or not you could still find a tier 6 elemental with that death rattle or not. I don't know if we ever got any clarification on that, but I know a ton of people have been asking.
I would assume not, just for the simple fact of with well, no, I don't know because I'm thinking of the primal fin
Mm-hmm.
and how it won't go to tier 6, so you can't get Megasaur. So I don't know. That will have to be something for science.
I'll check Cora's Twitter to see if we had a response to that one. But I don't know. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of tweets here, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, stat changes actually quite a bit going on here. Salty Looter got a buff going from 3-3 now to 4-4. They also buffed Bloodsail Cannoneer, going from 4-2 to 4-3. Party Elemental had its stats increased from 2-2 now up to 3-2. Then we have Arcane Assistant going from 3-2 to 3-3. So, a little bit of a buff for pirates. And Salty Looter has been one of the more like staple like mid-game pieces for that tribe. But the way I look at it, pirates were having such a hard time scaling against like elementals, and I really don't think that extra 1-1 is going to be the difference maker or the deciding factor in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was more curious that party elemental and like elemental mid game got a buff, knowing that, well, at that point you're gonna be looking for cyclones anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely, well. The thing is elementals were lacking in the early game.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're getting elementals, but there's no substance to them early game because you're not really buffing any of them. So I can see the party elemental getting buffed slightly, but the pirates, I, I don't know. I don't, I, it just, I don't see them being viable at this point because they can't scale. They can scale, but they can't scale to the same degree.
Right.
And that's going to be the big issue now. You know, getting that +1/+1 on salty looter is nothing because it's just not a big deal.
And it is worth noting, for this past patch, pirates are performing the worst.
Not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either in that regard. Now, we also have a change to Major Domo executives. And, I know when a lot of people read in this one, they're like, what does that even mean?
Right? I had to read it like four
Okay.
times.
So, okay, it was at the end of your turn, you give your leftmost minion +1/+1 for each elemental you played this turn. The new text is at the end of your turn, you give your leftmost minion +1/+1, repeat for each elemental you played this turn. So, what does it all mean? Well, guys, it means I'll keep this as simple as I can. If you do not buy an elemental, you are still gaining +1/+1 guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Yeah, it is 100%.
So there you have it. Like it's one of those things where, like, if there's probably nothing else that can buff your board, you're probably like, why not? It's a
Sure, might as
free
well.
+1/+1. It's not a terrible one to end on, but like compared to like other things that would have had synergy with elementals, it still seems pretty damn bad for like a 4-drop.
Yeah. But the thing is if it's at a 3-drop, it'd be overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a 5-drop, it'd be freaking useless. So I'm fine where it's at. I like how they played on it and they made it useful for stuff out, like you can automatically buff without having to play elementals
Hmm.
until you can sell it. But yeah, this is more of a placement. Like, well, I got 3 gold. I need to buy one. What's the best card on the board? Type of thing. So,
Yeah, I
so we,
wonder. I'm really curious. Like when I read this initially, I was like, are they gonna bring Tyrion back? Because anytime I see a card that is buffing neutrals, I immediately drift there.
God no.
All right, so we already mentioned Little Rag and Genie kind of like doing a little switcheroo in regard to their tiers, but they also did adjust the stats accordingly. So Little Rag now being at 6 went from a 4-4 now up to 6-6. Genie was 6-8 as a 5 drop. And I'm looking at my notes, and when I was putting the numbers in, it converted it to a fraction, and it's so tiny I can't actually read it.
It's a 4 or 5 now.
A 4 or 5? Okay.
Yep,
I
four or
was,
five.
I was like, what percentage am I gonna have to scroll in order to actually be able to read this?
Mm,
All right, so 6-8 to a 4-5. Plus, you do get
a card.
more cards in your hand, which is always a good thing. And if you're paired with like a Baron, then you get 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Genie is going to be a really good addition to Tier 5 for Elementals.
Yes.
I'm curious to see like what the end game for Elementals will be at this point when we're talking about the final board state. Because obviously we're not gonna see like as crazy numbers with Rag now being up to Tier 6 at this point. But you're still gonna be able to cycle just as much as you were prior if you do get like an early Nomi.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be great. And the thing is most of the like it's not gonna make like elementals overpowered because like a lot of the best cards for late game for elementals are non-elemental cards until you get to tier 6 now because like you know do you want that Nomi, which is not an elemental? um so and it doesn't, and it also, the thing is it doesn't help Nomi
Mm-hmm.
because you're not buying it, so you don't buff off of that. So it's just basically giving you a free gold
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. Or if you play an elemental buff, the +1/+1 type of thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's a good card to have in tier 5 now.
Yeah, so obviously the other thing that we didn't really touch up on too much was the changes with Selfless Hero and Deadly Spore, both moving up a tier each. So the dev insight for this was that Divine Shield Poison endgame comps are super powerful and can feel a little like old Murlocs. We think this is good to an extent, but the appearance rates for these 2 cards were just a bit too high. So, the other thing to kind of note here is the potential shift we could see with Alakir with these Macaw builds. Because, it is pretty common for the Alakir to go for Macaw on, the far left, to have that Baron, to have the Golden Selfless. And then, you just attack and then boom, full Divine Shield. There you go.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something curious to watch. But I want to get your thoughts on what the state of Divine Shield Poison was. Were you feeling like it was getting to be too overbearing or too accessible at, the tiers that they were currently at the time?
So much the selfless hero, but more of the poison,
Mm-hmm.
deadly spore. That was a little bit too prevalent, I think. And it makes it like moving the selfless hero does make a little sense, just because we do have more tier 1 minions than tier 2, so it kind of evens that out. You're gonna see less gold than selfless heroes, which is always a good thing. Um, and but I think the bigger thing is the deadly spore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're going to see less of those out there because, well, you know what? 4 to 5 is a way bigger deal than going from tier 1 to tier 2. Like everyone's going to level up from tier 1 to tier 2. Not everyone's going to make it to level 5.
Right.
So it definitely makes the hero pool in tier 5 weaker by just having it on there. Like it should be more of a niche pick than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm good with both these changes. I wasn't running into too many big divine shield builds,
Okay.
but that's just me.
Oh, well, I know where I was at. They were definitely pretty damn prevalent in my games. But, the scam potential was always there. And,
Mm-hmm.
more times than not, that did work in my favor because I wasn't outright forcing, elementals more times than not. So, you know, it's going to be more of an adjustment for me than probably other players. But, you got to adapt with the times. So we'll have to see where everything is going to fall into place here. So looking forward to hopping into Battlegrounds later tonight after the raid to get, just try out, the new balance changes.
For sure.
Maybe get a Syndragosa game in or two. But I think it's time that we close out the tavern for tonight. So guys, just as a reminder, we will be moving to Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That will be starting next week, and we'll be going over, the recent events as well as our hands-on experiences with this new patch since it dropped super close to record time. But if you guys are looking to help us out, please do us a favor and head on over to iTunes and write us a review. Let us know how we're doing and if there is anything you would like to see us incorporate into the show. If you frequent the Bob's Tavern subreddit, you've probably noticed that I've been posting there a little bit more, and I have been doing kind of like a weekly roundup for this week in Battlegrounds. So if you guys are looking for an easy way to just keep up with all the news, all the events, dev insights, anything like that, be sure to head over there. The first one had some pretty decent traffic, so hopefully more people are gonna be finding Hearthstone podcast because of that. So stay tuned for all of that. But Ed, please let our listeners know how they can reach out to our show.
All right. So you can join us through email at taverntailspodcast@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at taverntailshs. We do stream the show live on Twitch at twitch.tv/taverntailshs. We will be doing Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific for the foreseeable future. You can join us on Discord at bit.ly/tavern discord. You can follow me personally on Twitter, and that's at Edinar83, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Edinar. Totem, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me over on Twitter. That would be at Drunk, as well as Twitch at twitch.tv/Drunk, where you could probably, I mean, if I am streaming, I'm streaming Battlegrounds. Not probably. I'd definitely be playing Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
And probably, hours worth.
probably.
That's a fair assessment. But that will do it for us here tonight on Tavern Tales. Best of luck in your battles ahead. Hopefully, RNGesus doesn't take the wheel and drive you off the cliff. But it's time to adjust. We'll see. We'll see if the Ragnar is going to be monstrous enough to kind of like bring some of these people back that were getting pretty disgruntled. So who knows? Either way, guys, so best of luck in your games, and we'll see you for our next show on Tuesday. You have a good night.
See you guys. All right.